Hey, welcome to Trinity Online. My name is Scott, and we're so glad that you chose to join us this weekend online. Although, that's probably all the options you had, actually. So, hey, welcome here. And speaking of welcome here is where I am in the refinery, and it looks a little bit different, doesn't it? For many of you, you've been joining us these last number of months since October as we've gathered in this space in anticipation of meeting again once in our auditorium as soon as the renovations were done. We're almost at that moment, and yet here we are in a place that we spent so much time and energy together discovering God in a new way, truly a process of refinement. And now the space is emptied out for our next gen team to be able to use, and our Trinity kids on Sundays and on weekends and midweek, using it as a gym. And we're so grateful for that. But more so, we're grateful how God chose to show up. And as I think about it, it actually was quite a meaningful time for me. He taught me about himself, and I'm pretty sure you would say the exact same thing. And for many of you, it was a first opportunity where you engaged with Trinity. And for others, you'd been here for years, and this was so unique to what had happened in the season. And all of us, no matter if you're new, you've been here a couple years or forever, we're all anticipating what God wants to do in our new space, the auditorium. So today we don't have a sermon or a worship set. Our teams are working so hard getting the space ready, doing double and triple shifts so that November 20th, we can all celebrate together. We have over 160 volunteers, staff, and students at Garden Lake this weekend on a retreat, believing that God is going to do incredible things, not only in their lives, but within our student ministry. And so right now, we're going to have a reminder of God's faithfulness over this past season, going back and watching some Renewed Heart, Renewed Home videos as we anticipate together on November 20th.
So it's been a while since there's been an update on capital renewal. See, the reality of things is that they were changing so fast that we couldn't keep up with the moving target of construction complications and unknown costs and material shortages and the complexity of the scope of the project. There was a lot going on, people. So to make sure that we're all on the same page, let's go back to the beginning. And for us to do that, we gotta go up there. Back on June 23rd of 2021, while we were still in the last few weeks of COVID restrictions for faith gatherings, Kelowna experienced a record-breaking heat wave. In fact, the daily temperatures turned up the heat so much in the attic space, kind of like what's on the other side of this roof now, that the temperatures got so hot in the auditorium, like really hot, like over 150 degrees, and that's Fahrenheit, people, hot. That one of these little sprinkler heads burst. It did exactly what it was supposed to do. It sprinkled. Okay, sprinkled would have been an understatement. A large portion of the ceiling was wrecked, pews were damaged, carpet was compromised all the way out into the lobby. It was a big mess. Then a week later, at the end of June, a decision was made by our members that instead of just fixing what was damaged, it would make way more sense to do a full auditorium renovation. Now, there had already been some dreaming about what the cosmetic upgrades that we would want to do, and so we had a head start already. A budget was put together, members gave a green light, and off we went. Nothing could have prepared us for what transpired over the following months. The amount of infrastructure work that was needed was massive. Structural engineering, labor, mechanical engineering, material shortages, new code compliances that would make your head spin, which led to even more engineering. Let's just say that in those early days, we didn't know what we didn't know. The reality of the project was far more complicated and far more costly than the original budget would address. Enter this guy, Brian Homishin, longtime Trinity attender and construction Jedi, who signed up to help us understand the depth of the project, put a realistic budget on the table, and then give oversight to everything that we needed to know. What you need to know is that this guy is gold. With 40 years of construction experience, he is adored by a community of local trades. He knows the industry. He stretches every dollar and brings a smile to the site every day. And he's got a beauty smile. Brian's observations were spot on. This was a way bigger project than just new seats, paint, and some carpet. We were taking the auditorium down to studs and literally reworking every inch of fire suppression, electrical, lighting, HVAC, Oh yeah, and putting in some new seats, paint, and some carpet. But seriously, the changes and upgrades happening, there's not enough hours in the day to get through it all. And that's why this is going to be the first of many updates that will get you up to speed about where we've come from, where we are, and where we're going with Capital Renewal, which, by the way, is going to be renamed Renewed Heart, Renewed Home. And that's just a little teaser of what's ahead.
Hey Trinity family, I'm Michael and I serve as one of the 6 members of our finance team for Renewed Heart, Renewed Home. This is the second update, and if you missed the first one, you're probably asking, what's Renewed Heart, Renewed Home? For the past year now, we've had a capital campaign to restore and renovate our auditorium. We've been referring to that initiative as Capital Renewal. It's been a challenging year. To say that there have been some surprises along the way would be an understatement. A few weeks ago at our annual members meeting, a new strategy to get us to a completed project was launched. So from this moment forward, we're no longer using capital renewal language. From now on, we are pursuing a renewed heart, renewed home. Because this isn't just about new paint, carpet, and seats, although that will happen, but far more. It's about the journey of our community. Being a people, a church that seeks the best for each other, that is for each other, united. That can only happen if each one of us examines ourselves and seeks God. That's renewed heart, renewed home. As you sat down today, you would have found one of these, a contribution card. That is yours to take home. Read through it in detail. Learn the history of why environments matter in a community of faith and see the journey we have gone through in our process so far. We are asking everyone who calls Trinity home to take time and go through the 4-step process on the back of the card and to seek direction as to how you might be led to contribute. Keep it on your coffee table, your kitchen island, post it on your fridge or your bathroom mirror. Put it somewhere so that it would remind you to pray and ask the question, what would be my contribution? 2 weeks ago, hundreds of you went through the auditorium and signed your names in the walls as a commitment to this community. Words of blessing, scripture, stories, names of family and friends that we hope one day this space would help them follow Jesus were written on the stage and door frames that will forever be sealed into the space. This is the intersection of the physical and spiritual, a physical space where people enter into a spiritual journey and experience the transformational work of God.
Welcome to part 3 of our Renewed Heart, Renewed Home update. If you missed any of our past episodes, don't worry. You can get caught up by going to renewal.trinitychurchkelowna.ca and clicking on Update Videos. In today's update, we're doing a deep dive into all things ceiling related. This week, the last of the scaffolding will come down, which is a sign that everything related to the ceiling is officially done. Well, almost everything. The scaffolding was built to allow engineers, architects, and workers standing access to all things related to the ceiling without climbing ladders or using lifts. Now, with the scaffolding gone, anyone walking into the auditorium will look up and see a black ceiling and think, hey, they painted the ceiling black, without realizing just how much work has gone on behind the paint. I can't begin to tell you the amount of engineering, problem solving, and good old-fashioned sweat that has gone into all of the elements concealed by and attached to the new ceiling. In fact, there have been so many changes, it would take hours to unpack all the details. To spare you from that, I'm going to give just a quick summary of the work that has been done. But first, some important background information. Our auditorium, including the ceiling, was built in 2 phases. The water damage that started the whole renewal process came from a burst sprinkler head in the attic space in the original sanctuary built 35 years ago in 1987. In 2000, the room was expanded to more than double the seating capacity, creating a new ceiling area with completely different construction than the old. The square footage is about a 60-40 split of old wood versus new steel behind the drywall, making everything a little more complicated. Okay, with that as background, here's what's been done. The old ceiling was removed, including all the drywall and attic insulation. New insulation was then added on top of the exterior to match the newer section and covered by a new roof membrane. The sprinkler system was discovered to be 2 years from end of life and was torn out completely. Having relocated the insulation, that enabled us to replace the old dry sprinkler system, which could withstand the freezing attic temperatures, with a new wet sprinkler system, engineered to cost less to install and last 15 years longer, saving money both now and in the future. HVAC airflow was re-engineered and multiple return air ducts moved from the ceiling towards the floor to promote better air circulation. The ceiling fans were also relocated, and with a replacement for one broken down rooftop unit on the way, we hope to be able to keep everyone cool and comfortable, even when full to capacity at Christmas, Easter, and graduations. The section of ceiling above the front of the stage was sloped to eliminate a flutter echo right where our pastor and worship leaders would stand, which is fancy tech talk for when sound gets trapped bouncing back and forth between two flat surfaces, making it difficult to capture and amplify the message cleanly and clearly. The old ceiling was then re-drywalled, taped, mudded, sanded, and textured, and the entire ceiling was repainted. Acoustical absorption panels were fabricated and mounted by a small army of our very own Trinity volunteers. New, high-output LED pendant lights were installed in the high ceiling areas and LED pot lights in the low ceiling areas, replacing 29,000 watts of energy-sucking halogen bulbs, which incidentally not only saves on electricity, but also helps with the air conditioning, having removed a 29,000 watt heat source. And the list could go on, with code requirements for seismic restraints and so many other details. So the next time you walk into the auditorium and look up, instead of thinking, hey, they painted the ceiling black, think to yourself, I'm so thankful for the 13 months and thousands of hours of work that have gone into making that ceiling its very best, so that I can hear clearly and sit comfortably. And a special shout out to all of you who volunteered to fabricate and install our acoustic panels. From constructing the frames, to wrapping the fabric, to stuffing the insulation, to attaching them to the ceiling, this would not have happened without you. So way to go.
Hey, welcome to part 4 of our Renewed Heart, Renewed Home updates. If you're new with us, we've been pulling together a series of updates that keep you posted on all the construction work that's been happening around here. If you've missed updates number 1 through 3, make sure that you check them out on renewal.trinitychurchkelowna.ca. We've already unpacked topics like our project timeline, our spiritual process, and all the work that's been done on and above the ceiling here, and of course, some incredible personal stories. Seriously, you're going to want to check them out if you haven't done so already. In this episode, I'm so excited to talk to you about a part of the auditorium that I have a little bit of connection with, the stage. Now, I bet you're probably thinking, seriously, Andrew, it's just a stage, a few 2x4s and some plywood. How many features could there possibly be? Well, in truth, there are actually so many that we've had to leave some stuff out just to narrow it down to the top 10. Here we go. Number 10, the front curve of the stage, also known as the apron, is designed with a specific radius to perfectly fit the curvature of the new seats in order to minimize wasted floor space and maximize unobstructed sightlines. Now, unfortunately, this can't help you if someone who's 7 feet tall sits in front of you. We couldn't figure that one out. Number 9, on this front curve of the stage, footlights will be placed inside of a trough to provide uplighting that will fill in any harsh shadows that might obscure expressiveness of our singers and communicators. This is a huge benefit for anyone who's in the room and online. Number 8, this same curved trough will hold front fill speakers to provide clear sound for the front and center keeners who are sitting underneath the coverage of our main speakers. 7, anything on stage that has a cable will be plugged into power and data jacks under the top of the stage through a genius system of removable panels that maximizes flexibility while keeping things organized and tidy. It's all designed by our very own Joel Armstrong. Number 6, these stairs leading onto the stage as well as up to the fire exits and balcony wings will be inset into the arc of the stage, maximizing our seating space. Number 5, 2 baptism tanks are strategically placed into the floor of the stage, allowing a great viewing angle while simultaneously providing a discreet entrance and exit behind the side curtains. Why 2 tanks? Well, that's so that we'll have one tank accessible without limiting our stage arrangement and design options. But more importantly, it's because of the belief that we will need to use both tanks in our services moving forward because of the number of people wanting to be baptized. Number 4, both of the tanks have a water line window so that you'll be able to not only see people stepping down into the tank, you'll literally see them going under the water. How cool is that? Number 3, locking panels will create a continuous deck or stage top, completely hiding the tanks when they're not in use. Basically, that's so that we don't fall in. Number 2, this stage has been reinforced with over 20 new pilings and reinforced concrete footings so that the grand piano won't fall through the stage again. I'm not saying that's ever happened before, but I'm not saying that it didn't happen either. And the number 1 feature of this new stage, something that benefits every single one of us, 100% of this back wall will now be treated with absorptive acoustic material, replacing the previous band shell design, giving our amazing audio volunteers more ability to control the sound that you hear instead of the stage itself reflecting it all out there on its own. You don't need to know much about audio engineering to know that this one, it's a pretty big deal. So there you have it, the top 10 features of our new stage. But I've got to say, I'm probably most excited about something that we were all a part of a number of weeks ago. See, back in June, we gave you all an opportunity to write prayers and scriptures, blessings and names on exposed wall frames and on the floor all around this room. Well, that week, we put a specific call out to our music team to fill the floor and the underside of the front of this stage with psalms, lyrics of songs, prayers, and blessings for our worship culture specifically in this space. When we move back into this room, our worship teams and communicators will literally be standing on the word of God and the praises of his people.
I hope you enjoyed those reminders of how this auditorium is taking shape, and most recently, how that stage now has 2 baptismal tanks. It's pretty amazing, isn't it? And now I'm sitting here in section 203, row NN seat 4. It's a brand new seat, actually. It's the precise spot where the flood began back in June 2021. I actually know that because I'm the one who took the video of the water coming from the roof. Man, there's a lot that's happened since that time, but one of the things we decided to do was recognize the moment by having our worship team, in the middle of all that disaster, sing a song of hope. And we thought today it'd be really great to remind ourselves of exactly where it started and how God's faithfulness has shown up even today.
I'll wait for you to come. Yes, I'll wait for you to come. 'Cause when I'm with you, Lord, it always leaves me wanting more. Here's our praise, you can dwell within. So come again. Come again, let the glory in. I'm open, I'm open. So come again, let the glory in. I'm open, I'm open. I'll wait joy is our strength. Come and move within us. Come and have your way. It's not a building you want to fill. It's my heart. This empty space is what you wanted all along. It's not a building you want to fill. It's my heart. This empty space is what you wanted all along. Yes, God. It's not a building you want to fill. It's my heart. It's my heart.
This empty space is what you wanted all along.
It's what you wanted all along. It's not a building you want to fill. It's my heart. It's my heart. This empty space is what you wanted all along. Oh, it's not a building. It's not a building you want to fill. It's my heart. This empty space is what you wanted all along. Oh, yes, it's what you wanted. It's not a building you want to fill. It's my heart. Oh, it's my heart. This empty space is what you wanted all along. You wanted all along. Oh, it's not a building you want to fill. Lord, it's my heart. It's our hearts. It's our hearts.
This empty space.
Oh, it's what you wanted all along. What you wanted all along. So come and have your way.
Not a building you wanna
Oh,
fill.
come and move within us. This empty space is what you wanted all along. Oh, faithful you are. Yes, you are. Faithful forever you will be. Faithful you are. Yes, you are. 'Cause all your promises are yes and amen. We sing faithful, faithful
You are
time and time again. Faithful,
forever. You
oh, forever and ever and ever.
faithful. You are
Oh, all your promises,
yes and amen.
all your promises.
All your promises are yes.
Oh, come and move within all your promises.
All your promises are yes.
Oh, the joy of the Lord is our strength. All your promises.
All your promises are yes and amen.
So come again, let the glory in. I'm open, I'm open. So come again, let the glory in. I'm open, I'm open.
Welcome to update number 5 for Renewed Heart, Renewed Home, where we're walking through the latest developments as we race to the finish line for these last few months of the auditorium renovation and restoration project. And if you've missed any of the previous 4 episodes, make sure to check out renewal.trinitychurchkelowna.ca. So much information out there that you will want to be current of. Okay, in today's episode, we're talking all things vestibules, upper balcony, and washrooms. First, let's talk vestibules. Now, a vestibule is not only a fun word to say, it also serves a very specific purpose. Actually, we haven't had these before. Now, the best way that I can describe this is it's a mini room that you walk through that connects 2 different spaces. Now, previously, the auditorium had 8 doorways, and each of them opened into an aisle that there were pews between. Now, this made an easy flow for people to walk between the auditorium and the lobby, but equally as easy for sound and light to flow as well. So if there were lots of people still congregating in the lobby as the service started, that sound transferred freely into the auditorium as well. Not great. The same would happen with light. Our lobby has lots of natural, awesome light. But because we use video projection in the auditorium, the light levels need to be carefully controlled to keep the screens clearly visible. When the lobby doors would be opened in the past, that daylight would spill directly toward the stage, and often you would see the shadow of anyone walking through the door pass across the screens, washing out the projected image. But no more. Just like in a theater space, these sound light lock vestibules will minimize the amount of sound transference and eliminate any daylight bleed from the lobby into the auditorium. These vestibules will not only consolidate the prior 8 entrances into 2. That will open into kind of a ring road now across the back of the auditorium. So you can easily access any seat in any section without walking in front of anyone already seated. Now, how cool is that? Okay, now let's take a walk up, way up to the upper balcony. Ready? Here we go. Okay, when this part of the auditorium was built 22 years ago, the upper balcony was designed to provide maximum seating for large events like graduations and Easters and Christmases and concerts. Now, for those events, this space was fabulous, certainly better than being stuck out in the lobby. But for our weekend services, it was rarely ever used. So the architectural design team thought of a brilliant idea to make the room feel more symmetrical and to eliminate any empty, cavernous kind of feeling. The 7-foot pony wall behind me was built to separate the lower balcony from the upper balcony. Then a system of pipe and drape was integrated into the pony wall so that fire-rated curtains could be extended from the wall high enough to block sightlines, but not high enough to inhibit any air circulation or sprinkler coverage. So when the upper balcony isn't needed, it would be camouflaged into the rest of the balcony aesthetics so that you wouldn't even know that it's there. Then when it is needed, the pipe and drape comes down in about 5 minutes, extra video projectors can be powered on, and then almost 300 more seats are available and you'd never know where they came from. How cool is that? Okay, now let's head back down to the washrooms. Okay, let's talk washrooms. Like, what's the big deal about washrooms anyways? Well, previously, there were only 4 washroom stalls on the entire main floor, outside of the ones that were in Trinity Kids zones, designated specifically for those kids. Now, those 4 stalls were for 2,000 seats, unless you wanted to take the labyrinth walk down to the washrooms in the basement, which, by the way, are beautiful. Now, if washrooms can be beautiful, these are, but not the most accessible. Now, seeing that almost all of the traffic goes through this lobby space and also through the hub because of all the events that happen in there, the architectural design team came up with another brilliant idea. Previously, there was this old cloakroom in the middle of the lobby that had gone unused for almost a decade. If you don't know what a cloakroom is, just ask your parents. Then there was a storage section on the other side of the cloakroom wall that, with some creative thinking, could be combined to create new washroom space. Now there will be washrooms with touchless entrances from the lobby, as well as double door access entrance from the hub side, touchless faucets and paper towel dispensers, along with a much needed main floor janitorial closet. Those will be some of the features that will serve this entire main floor with greater intentionality. You don't even want to know how much engineering went into this space. Part of the basement needed to be reconfigured to accommodate the plumbing. A portion of the concrete right here in the lobby needed to be excavated so that we could tap into a previous existing sewer line. There was a lot. So now you know you don't have to go far to go when you've got to, wash your hands. So there you have it. Sound light lock vestibules, a disappearing upper balcony, and centrally located washrooms, all a part of Renewed Heart, Renewed Home. And on behalf of the design team, the construction team, the finance team, the elders, and everyone who's working hard to get us to the finish line, thank you, Trinity. Thank you for your patience, your excitement, your prayers, and your contributions. We do this together. And if you have yet to take the contribution card and go through the 4-step process on the back, please do. We're praying for people to step out and give, not out of obligation, but out of gratitude and obedience. How would God want you to contribute? Every contribution is different, and every contribution matters.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 6 in our series of updates, Renewed Heart, Renewed Home, where we are taking you behind the scenes into the progress on our auditorium restoration and renovation process in an effort to both inform and inspire. Today is an exciting day because we're talking about seats. So let's go have a seat because we can. We are right in the middle of the 2-week installation process, and already the room is visually transformed. First, let's talk about the layout. There are now 3 seating sections at ground level with 4 main aisles. Because the side sections are larger than the center, they each have short aisles that provide easy access to the wider back rows. You'll also notice that the seats are arced to match the curvature of the stage, assuring that each person is naturally facing towards the action. But equally important, the curved rows allow you to see more than just the one person on either side of you in your own row, increasing our awareness of each other and elevating our sense of togetherness. Now let's talk aisles. You'll notice right away that the aisles are very spacious and a lot straighter than they used to be. This is intentional for 2 reasons. First, as I'm sure you can guess, it makes it easier for all of us to make our way around the room. The second is less obvious and has to do with access to the ceiling, which we talked about a few weeks ago. Since the seats are now anchored into the floor, it adds a level of difficulty when we will inevitably need to swap out a light fixture, dust the ceiling fans, or hang Christmas lights. So the aisles were designed to the specific dimensions of the type of lift needed to reach over the seats and up to the ceiling. And special access doors were added in the back corner that allow us to drive it straight in, as those beautifully functional vestibules we talked about last episode are not exactly lift friendly. When we get to the front of the room and need to turn a corner, we've allowed enough width to make that possible by using a different style of chair in the first 2 rows. Instead of anchored seats, those 2 rows get K-chairs. What's a K-chair? I'm glad you asked. The K-chair is the stackable version of the fixed seats, made in the same styling and with the same fabric, but with front legs so that it doesn't have to be bolted down to not fall over. From the side, it kind of looks like the letter K. Having these seats in the front rows not only allows lift access, but also opens up creative possibilities that may require a little floor space, as well as flexibility for concerts where standing room in the front is a big bonus. And in addition to pulling seats out where helpful, we can also add more in. We have enough K-chairs to add 1 at the end of each row down our spacious aisles when maximum capacity is the goal. There are 512 permanent seats on the main floor, but a total of 637 when all in, which is actually more people than we could previously fit in our pews. That also means that anyone dependent on a wheelchair can now park at the end of any row while still maintaining the required aisle width for fire safety. But even better, we've now added new accessible seating section in the balcony with a panoramic view of the whole room. Now let's get into the details of the individual seats. They were constructed in Colombia. That's the country, not the province, and they are completely silent. When you stand up and sit down, there's no familiar sound of creaking wood, nor the typical sound of spring-loaded stadium seats. The bottom hinge is gravity activated and will stay down if you'd like to place your purse or Bible next to you, but we're hopeful you'd rather have a friend beside you and praying that every seat will be filled with a human. When you and that friend stand up, having the seat bottom flip up provides double the space for you to sneak past each other or dance while you worship. How great is that? Only the aisle seats have armrests equipped with lighting to illuminate your way should you need to visit those new washrooms in the lobby while the room is dim. The backs of the seats on the ground level have a slot to hold a Bible and communion cups, as well as cup holders so that any beverages you bring with you will have a safe home away from accidental kicks. The fabric used on the seats far exceeds industry standard for durability and longevity, and is an exact match to the stacking chairs that you may be sitting on right now, which, by the way, will be relocated into the upper balcony section. We started the conversation with this seating company 4.5 years ago. To see them finally being installed is a little surreal, and they're even better than we imagined. We can't wait to see you sitting in one soon.
Welcome to update number 7 for Renewed Heart, Renewed Home, where we are walking through all of the changes and upgrades that are happening in our auditorium renovation and restoration process. And today we're talking about acoustics. Seriously? An entire episode dedicated to acoustics? Well, just wait and listen. Okay, that was bad. Seriously, who wrote this? First, a little bit about how acoustics work. If making sound is like dropping a rock into water, then the ripples it creates would be the acoustics. Every room that you walk into, sound is reflected, absorbed, or diffused. How that sound interacts with you determines if you need to raise your voice or whisper when you have a conversation. First, let's talk reflection. When you're in an enclosed space with just flat, hard walls, like an underground parking garage, any sound that is created will echo for a while. Then there's absorption. When sound hits a surface like carpet, curtains, or even people, those ripples get absorbed like waves washing up on a sandy beach. Finally, there's diffusion. Diffusion happens when sound hits an irregular object or a specific acoustical treatment, and instead of being reflected or absorbed, it's scattered. Every well-balanced room needs to have a combination of all 3 of these properties for sound to be most natural to the ear. This is exponentially exaggerated when the room happens to be a space with live musical instruments, like our auditorium. Previously, the acoustics in our auditorium were highly reflective by design to naturally mix together the sounds coming from many voices and instruments like a choir and orchestra. For that purpose, those acoustics did a spectacular job. However, our culture's changed, and now when you try to take control of the mix to balance out individual instruments and voices, both for those in the room and for Trinity Online, a reflective room constantly works against you by mushing it all together, making everything feel louder and less intelligible. Does anyone else remember that experience in the original space? Yeah, me too. So, getting the acoustics right for our room was a huge value and an even bigger challenge. Enter this guy, Jay Kaufman, our acoustical engineer. Jay has worked with the who's who of the music industry for 50 years. Eric Clapton, Lionel Richie, John Denver, Olivia Newton-John, the list is long. In fact, when we met Jay, he was actually in the process of building a home studio for John Mayer. Jay is a legend in the audio world, and he had us do a series of tests with special microphones that were placed all over the auditorium. These measured how sound projected from our stage reacts with all of the unique surfaces in the shape of our room. And then he put all those calculations into a computer program designed to measure audio resonance and calculated how much reflection, absorption, and diffusion we needed and where that acoustical treatment needed to go so that our new auditorium can sound its absolute best. So, here's what we did. The back wall of the stage has 100% absorption from floor to ceiling to prevent uncontrolled sound from the band from bouncing off the back wall and into the room. 30% of the ceiling was covered with 189 absorptive panels built and installed by an incredible volunteer team. The lower side walls were exposed to the studs, filled with acoustic absorptive insulation, and then covered with acoustic fabric and then slatboard. Sound travels like water. When there's a gap, it'll flow freely, and when there's a hard surface, it will reflect. The size of the gap and the width of these slats are specific to absorb the exact audio frequencies that we want to eliminate, while at the same time reflecting the frequencies we want to hear, so the room still feels alive. The carpet and new theater seats are also both designed to have absorptive properties. But you might have noticed that there's a hard floor under the seats. Now you'd think that that was functional for cleaning, which is true, but this vinyl tile was actually installed for acoustics. Too much absorptive treatment can make a room feel lifeless. So, a hard surface was placed under the seats where the sound from the main speakers can never reach. But get this, when you sing, the sound of your voice and the voices of those sitting around you will be reflected off of the floor and provide a greater sense of you being in a communal space with others. Now the back wall on the floor will have 75% absorptive treatment with 25% of the wall being diffusion. And this is kind of fun. A small army of Trinity volunteers have taken the solid oak ends from our old pews, resurfaced them, then cut them down to be the exact size and configuration to scatter or diffuse the most problematic audio frequencies that challenge our room. Not only do they look like art, but because we upcycled the old pews and the materials were either reclaimed or donated, this treatment was completely free. So, every time you walk in or out of the auditorium and see those diffusion panels on the back wall, think, I used to sit on that. And that's just scratching the surface of all that's been done to make the sound in our renovated space be its best. We can't wait for you to see and hear it. And a huge shout out to all of those who donated their time to serve on these acoustic projects. You have volunteered thousands of hours to make all of this possible, and we are so thankful. Did you hear that? So thankful!
Many of you have been praying for this very project day in and day out over the course of the last few years. And most specifically, in October 2021, a small group decided to prayerfully come before God, meeting on Friday mornings right here in the auditorium. And throughout that season, God revealed so many different things, including a passage that just kept bubbling to the surface, and one that we really believe God has given us for this moment in time. It's Isaiah chapter 43, and it says this, "But forget all that. It is nothing compared to what I'm going to do. For I am about to do something new. See, I've already begun. Do you not see it? I will make a pathway through the wilderness. I will create rivers in the dry wasteland." What a promise of God's faithfulness, that he wants to begin something new, not only in us, but in our faith community. And as we think about walking through those doors for the first time, we're believing for that. And I hope you're believing for it too. So today, as we kind of conclude our time together, can I challenge you with something? Can I challenge you to pray? Pray about what God might want to do, not only in our faith community, but in you. What might he want to reveal, refine, or compel you to do in this coming season? And would you have the courage to step into it? Number 2, would you pray for the teams as we continue to work towards November 20th, repairing, getting things all set? And 3, would you pray for our Trinity Youth Retreat that's happening this weekend at Gardem? We're believing God is going to do some powerful things in students' lives, in staff's lives, and in volunteers' lives. And we can't wait to hear the stories of all he's done. Thanks for being here. And hey, don't forget to invite a friend to join us on November 20th at 10 a.m. right here at Springfield and Spall for our auditorium first gathering together, and plan to stay for soup afterwards because it is a soup Sunday. So be here next weekend because we can't wait to say, welcome home.